Good morning everyone. Myself is Kiran Mai, lecturer in physics, working at Government City College. Now we are going to discuss about the central forces. A central force is defined as a force which always acts on a particle or body towards or away from a fixed point and whose magnitude depends on the point. This fixed point is known. It is to express the central force in polar coordinate system. P is a particle whose polar coordinates are r and theta. The central force on particle P is expressed by capital F. Mathematically, this can be expressed as F equals to r f of r, where f of r is a function of the distance r of the particle from the fixed point. And r vector is a unit vector. R cap is a unit vector along the radius vector r of the particle with respect to that fixed point. In case of two particles, the magnitude of central force depends upon the distance of separation of two particles and the direction being along the line joining the particles. Examples: the gravitational force exerted on a particle by another particle which is stationary in an inertial frame of reference is a central force. Consider the gravitational attraction force between two stationary masses m1 and m2 separated at a distance r. The force experienced by first particle due to the second particle can be written as F12 equals to minus capital G into m1 m2 by r square into r cap. Negative sign indicates that force is attractive. F equals to f of r into r cap. F of r equals to minus G into m1 m2 by r square, that is minus C by r square, where C equals to minus G into m1 m2. F of r is directly proportional to 1 by r square. The earth moves around the sun under a central force which is always directed towards the sun. Second one, the electrostatic force exerted on a charged particle by another stationary charged particle is central force. The electrostatic force between two charges Q1 and Q2 separated at a distance r is given by F12 equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 Q2 by r square into r cap. F of r equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 Q2 by r square. The electron in hydrogen atom moves under a central force which is always directed towards the nucleus. Third one, a particle attached to one end of a spring whose other end is stationary in an inertial frame of reference is also an example of central force. In this case, the elastic force acting on the mass is expressed as F equals to minus kx, where x is distance of the mass from the unstructured position of the spring and k is spring constant. The spring always pulls towards the fixed end or pushes away from it. The forces obeying inverse square law are effective over large distances. In case of gravitational problems, generally heavenly bodies are involved which are of very large sizes. Main features of central force. The general form of central force is represented by capital F equals to r cap f of r, where f of r is a function of distance r of the particle from the fixed point and r is a unit vector along the radius vector r of the particle with respect to that fixed point. Central force is a conservative force, that is, the work done by the force in moving a particle from one point to another is independent of path followed. Under a central force, the torque acting on the particle is always 0. Under a central force, the angular momentum of the particle remains conserved. Under a central force, the areal velocity of the particle remains constant. The central force is attractive when f of r is less than 0, that is negative, and repulsive when f of r is greater than 0, that is positive. Conservative nature of central force. Conservative force. A force is said to be conservative when the work done by the force in moving a particle from a point A to a point B is independent of the path followed between A and B is the same for all the paths. The work done depends only on the particle's initial and final positions. In addition, the work done by a conservative force along a closed path is 0. Explanation. Consider a particle is taken from point A to point B through the path APP-B or AQQ-B as shown in figure. The amount of work done by a force F is integral A to B F dot r dr. If the work done along the two paths is the same, then the force is known as conservative. Thus, for a conservative force, integral F dot dr equals to integral A to B path to F dot dr. Central force is a conservative force. Shall prove that central force is a conservative force. Consider 2 points A and B connected by two arbitrary path 1 and path 2 as shown in figure. Let a particle moves from point A to point B along any path under a central force which is directed away from a point O. Taking O as the center, draw two arcs of radii R and R plus dr. These are shown by dotted lines. These arcs of the circles cut the paths 1 and 2 at P and P dash, Q and Q dash. As shown, let dr1 and dr2 be the displacements of the particle between the arcs along path 1 and path 2. Let F1 and F2 be the central forces acting on the particle at points P and Q. By the definition of central force, F1 and F2 are equal because they are acting at the same distance from O. If θ1 and θ2 be the angles between F1 and dr1 and between F2 and dr2, then the projections of vectors dr1 and dr2 on F1 and F2 will be dr1 cos θ1 and dr2 cos θ2. As these projections are equal to dr, hence dr1 cos θ1 equals to dr2 cos θ2. That is, F1 dot dr1 equals to F2 dot dr2. In the same way, we can obtain the same result by considering every path segment taking along path 1 and path 2. So, in general, integral A to B F dot dr equals to integral A to B F dot dr. That is, work done in path 1 equals to work done in path 2. In this way, work done by central force acting on a particle moving from point A to point B is independent of path. Hence, central force is conservative. Further, we shall show that for conservative forces, the work done around a closed path is 0. The work done in moving the particle from A to point B through path 1 is given by work done A to B. Integral A to B F1 dot dr1 equals to integral A to B F dot dr. The work done in moving the particle from point B to point A through path 2 is given by work done B to A integral B to A F2 dot dr2 equals to minus integral A to B F dot dr. Therefore, W of A to B plus B to A is 0. Thus, the total work around the closed path A to B, B to A is 0. Next is conservative force as a negative gradient of potential energy. When a particle acted upon by a conservative force F moves from a space point x0, y0, z0 to another space point x, y, z, then potential energy at r is given by U of r equals to minus integral r0 to r f dot dr. Now we express f and dr in rectangular coordinates. F equals to ifx plus jfi plus kfz. Dr equals to I dx plus j dy plus k dz. F dot dr equals to fx dx plus fi dy plus fz dz. U of r equals to minus integral r0 to r f dot dr equals to minus integral x0 to x fx dx minus integral y0 to y fy dy minus integral z0 to z is integral x y z. Differentiating the equation partially with respect to x y z, we get fx equals to minus dou u by dou x, fy equals to minus dou u by dou y, fz equals to minus dou u by dou z. Therefore, f equals to fxi plus fij plus fzk, that is minus of I dou by dou x plus j dou by dou y plus k dou by dou z of u, that is minus del u, that is minus grad u. Thus, the equal to the negative gradient of potential energy. Curl of a conservative force. We know that F equals to minus del u. Curl F equals to del cross F del u. That is del cross I dou u by dou x plus j dou u by dou y plus k dou u by dou z. That is I j k dou by dou x dou by dou y dou by dou z of dou u by dou x dou u by dou y dou u by dou z. By solving that, we get the above equation. Now, as u is a perfect differential, hence dou square u by dou y dou z equals to dou square u by dou z dou y, and so on. Therefore, curl f equals to del cross f equals to 0. Thus, the curl of a conservative force is 0. Conservation of angular momentum. According to law of conservation of angular momentum, if no external torque acts on a body rotating about a fixed point, the angular momentum of the body remains constant. Consider that a particle is subjected to a central force. The central force is expressed as F equals to r cap F of r. The vectors F and r cap lie in the same line. By definition of a torque, we have tau equals to dl by dt equals to r cross F, where L is angular momentum. Substituting, we get dl by dt equals to r cross r cap of F of r, that is r cross r by r of F of r. That is dl by dt equals to 0. Integrating, we get L equals to constant. Hence, the angular momentum of a particle under the influence of a central force remains constant. Examples of conservation of angular momentum are motion of a planet in its orbit. We know that planets move in elliptical orbits around the sun, with sun at one of the foci. The gravitational force on the planet is directed towards the center of the sun. So, the force is a central force. Due to this fact, the angular momentum of the planet will be constant. Second one, scattering of alpha particles by a heavy nucleus. When an alpha particle comes closer to the nucleus, it gets reflected or scattered due to electrons' force of repulsion. Next is equation of motion under a central force. When a body moves under the action of a central force, the force is radial and is always towards a fixed point. The radial acceleration is given by radial acceleration equals to d square r by dt square minus r into d theta by dt whole square. In case of a central force, there is no force acting on a particle perpendicular to r. That is, transverse acceleration is 0. 1 by r into d by dt of r square d theta by dt equals to 0. That is, r square d theta by dt equals to constant. We substitute a standard notation u equals to 1 by r, which is called as reciprocal radius vector, or r equals to 1 by u. Then dr by dt equals to d by dt of 1 by u, that is minus 1 by u square into du by dt, that is minus 1 by u square into du by d theta into d theta by dt, that is minus r square into d theta by dt into du by d theta, that is h into du by d theta, where r square d theta by dt equals to h. Further, d square r by dt square equals to d by dt of minus h du by dt, that is minus h into d by d theta of du by d theta into d theta by dt, that is minus h square u square into d square u by d theta square. Substituting the value of d square r by d theta square, the radial acceleration equals to minus h square u square into d square u by d theta square minus r into d theta by dt whole square, that is minus h square u square into d square u by d theta square minus h square u cube. Now the force acting on the particle equals to mass into radial acceleration, that is F equals to minus m into minus h square u square d square u by d theta square minus h square u cube. Negative sign indicates that force is attractive. H square u square d square u by d theta square plus h square u cube equals to F by m equals to P, where F by m equals to P is the force per unit mass. Therefore, d square u by d theta square plus u equals to P by h square u square. This is the differential equation of the orbit of a particle moving under an attractive central force P per unit mass. Next is Kepler's laws. Inverse square law force. The force which is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between two particles is called a force obeying inverse square law. If the line of action of the force is along the line connecting the two particles, the force is known as central force. The gravitational force between two particles obeys inverse square law and is taken as negative. On the other hand, the force of repulsion between the two like point charges also obeys inverse square law and is taken as positive. Thus, the gravitational and electrostatic fields are central force. Kepler's laws. Following are the three Kepler laws about the motion of a planet. First law. This first law is known as the law of elliptical orbits. This law gives the shape of the orbit of a planet around the sun. According to this law, the path of a planet is an elliptical orbit around the sun with sun at one end of its foci. Second law. This law is known as the law of areas. This law gives the relationship between the orbital speed of a planet and its distance from the sun. According to this law, the radius vector drawn from the sun to a planet sweeps out equal areas in equal time. That is, aerial velocity is constant. Third law. This law is known as harmonic law. This gives a relationship between the size of the orbit of a planet and its time of revolution. According to this law, the time period of the planet round the sun is proportional to the cube of the semi-major axis of its orbits. Deduction of Kepler's laws. First law. Consider the case of a planet of mass m rotating round the sun of mass capital M in an orbit of radius r. According to Newton's law of gravitation, the force of attraction between them is given by F equals to G into mm by r square. This force is directed towards the center of the sun. Now the acceleration of the planet towards the center of the sun will be minus gm by r square, where mu equals to gm. Negative sign is used because the force is towards the center of the sun. We know that in polar coordinates, the radial acceleration is given by radial acceleration equals to d square r by d theta square dt square minus r into d theta by dt whole square. Therefore, d square r by dr minus r into d theta by dr whole square equals to minus mu by r square. We also know that transverse acceleration is 0. Therefore, 1 by r into d by dt of r square d theta by dt equals to 0. R square d theta by dt equals to constant, that is h. The polar equation of central orbit is d square u by d theta square plus u equals to u by h square u square. Hence, P equals to F by M. Therefore, du square by d theta square plus u equals to mu by h square. Dm, that is d square u by d theta square plus u minus mu by h square equals to 0. That is d square by d theta square into u minus mu by h square plus u minus mu by h square equals to 0. d square x by d theta square plus x equals to 0, where u minus mu by h square equals to x. This is second degree differential equation whose solution is given by x equals to a cos theta minus t naught, where a and theta naught are constants. Putting the value of x, we get u minus mu by h square equals to a cos of theta minus theta naught. Therefore, 1 by r equals to 1 plus a h square by mu cos theta minus theta naught by h square by mu, where u equals to 1 by r. This equation is similar to polar equation of a conic, that is 1 by r equals to 1 plus epsilon cos theta by L. Comparing that, L equals to semi-latus rectan, that is h square by mu. Epsilon equals to eccentricity of the conic, h square by mu. If epsilon is greater than 1, the conic is hyperbola. Epsilon is equal to 1, the conic is parabola. Epsilon is less than 1, the conic is ellipse. In order to consider the nature of the conic, we have to find the value of epsilon. To find the value of epsilon, we have to take the following steps. The total energy of the planet is partly potential and partly kinetic. The kinetic energy is given by half m into dr by dt whole square plus r square into d theta by dt whole square. That is half m into h square du by d theta whole square plus h square u square. That is half m h square into a square sin square theta minus theta naught plus mu by h square plus a cos theta minus theta naught whole square. Using the above, that is half m h square into a square sin square theta minus theta naught plus mu square by h power 4 plus a square cos square theta minus theta naught plus 2 mu by h square a cos theta minus theta naught. That is half m h square into a square plus mu square by h power 4 plus 2 mu a by h square into cos theta minus theta naught. The potential energy of the planet is given by P equals to integral r to infinity minus g mm by r square dr. That is integral r to infinity minus mu m by r square. That is minus mu m by r equals to minus mu mu. That is minus mu m into mu by h square plus cos theta minus theta naught. Therefore, total energy of the planet E equals to EPE plus KE. That is E equals to half m h square into a square plus mu square by h power 4 plus 2 mu a h square cos theta minus theta naught minus mu m mu by h square plus a cos theta minus theta naught. By solving that, we get half m h square a square minus mu square by h power 4. Therefore, 2e by m h square equals to a square minus mu square by h power 4, or a square equals to 2e by m h square plus mu square by h power 4. A equals to mu by h square into 1 plus 2e by h square by m mu square whole power half. Now the eccentricity of the conic is given by epsilon equals to a h square by mu. This shows the orbits with different energies. If epsilon is less than 1, E is less than 0, orbit is ellipse. If epsilon equals to 1, E equals to 0, orbit is parabola. If epsilon is greater than 1, E is greater than 0, orbit is hyperbola. The fact that orbits in terms of total energy is extremely remarkable. A body with a parabola or hyperbola orbit would pass away from the solar system and will never return to it. That is, the system is unbounded. Thus, we conclude that the planetary orbits are all elliptical, that is bounded. This leads to Kepler's first law, which states that every planet revolves round the sun in an elliptical orbit with sun at its foci. Second law. Let the planet moves from P to P dash in dt seconds. Aerial velocity equals to area SP P dash by dt equals to half r into r plus dr sin theta by dt. That is r square d theta by dt equals to h. This shows that aerial velocity of the planet is constant. That is, when a planet revolves around the sun, the radius vector joining the sun to the planet sweeps equal areas in equal intervals. This is Kepler's second law. Third law. The time period of revolution T is given by capital T equals to area swept in one revolution divided by aerial velocity. that is pi AB by h by 2, where pi AB equals to area of the ellipse with A and B as semi-major and semi-minor axis. We know that semi-laterous rectum equals to B square by A. Therefore, B square by A equals to h square by mu, or h square equals to mu B square by A. T equals to pi AB by half B under root mu by A. That is 2 pi A equals to 2 pi A by under root mu by A. That is T square is directly proportional to A cube. Thus, the square of the period of revolution of a planet around the sun is proportional to the cube of semi-major axis. This is Kepler's third law. Third law, form inverse square law of gravitation. As shown in figure, let some mass ms and a planet small m are moving in circular orbit under each other's gravitational attraction about their common center C. Here, capital R and small r are the radii of the orbits of sun and planet. From the figure, ms r equals to mr, but ms is much more greater than small m, so r is negligibly small compared to r. We may assume that sun is situated at C. Gravitational attraction exerted by sun on planet equals to g ms m by r square, directed radially inward. Centripetal force on planet equals to mv square by r equals to m into r omega square divided by r. That is g ms m by r square equals to m r omega square. By solving that, we get t square equals to 4 pi square by g ms into r cube, which is directly proportional to r cube. This is Kepler's third law. Next is gravitational field. Gravitational field. The space around a body within which its gravitational force of attraction can be experienced is called the gravitational field. Gravitational attraction. Gravitational attraction, or the intensity of gravitational field at a point in the field, is the force experienced by a unit mass placed at that point. The intensity of the gravitational field at a point distant r from a point mass m, F equals to g m into 1 by r square. This is a vector quantity. The above relation for intensity of gravitational field shows the gravitational field strength at any point varies inversely as the square of the distance from the mass m. The force due to m on any mass small m can be calculated by multiplying gm by r square with m. If the distribution of matter in space does not change with time, then the gravitational field at any point in space will also not change with time. That is, gravitational field is stationary one. The gravitational field is a vector field that acts along the lines joining the centers of the two bodies. Gravitational potential. The gravitational potential at a point in a gravitational field is the work done in taking a unit mass from infinity to that point. The difference of gravitational potential between 2 points in a gravitational field is the work done in taking a unit mass from one point to the other against the gravitational force of attraction. Let capital M be the attracting point mass placed at O. If a unit mass is placed at A, then gravitational attraction experienced by its gm by r square will be directed towards O. If unit mass is moved against this attraction through a small distance dr to point B, the work done against the attraction is gm by r square cross dr. Hence, work done in moving a unit mass a to infinity is integration r to infinity gm by r square dr. That by supplying the limits we get gm by r. The work done by the field in moving unit mass from infinity to a is therefore minus gm by r. This also represents the gravitational potential V at a distance r from an attracting mass, that is V equals to minus gm by r. Potential is a scalar quantity. The negative sign here denotes that potential increases in the direction of r increasing, that is away from attracting mass. Relation between attraction and potential. Let there be 2 points A and B very near to each other at a distance dr in the gravitational field F acting in the direction indicated, then the work done in taking a unit mass from B to A is F dot dr. If dV be the difference of gravitational potential, then dV equals to F dot dr, that is F equals to dV by dr. Hence, the intensity of gravitational field at any point is equal to the potential gradient or the rate of change of gravitational potential. Gravitational potential energy. The gravitational potential energy of a particle placed in a gravitational field is measured by amount of work done in displacing the particle from a reference position to its present position. The reference position is chosen at an infinite distance from the attracting mass where the potential energy of the particle is taken 0. As discussed, the work done in carrying unit mass from infinity to that point is minus gm by r. Therefore, the work done in moving a particle of mass m from infinity to that point will be u equals to minus gmm by r, which is the gravitational potential energy of the particle at that point. The negative sign signifies that gravitational potential energy decreases as the particle is brought from infinity towards the attracting mass.